What is up, guys? So this is going to be my review for Supergirl Season 3, Episode 13, titled Both Sides. Now, and this is the last episode of Supergirl for 9 weeks. It's going on break for 9 weeks in order for Legends of Tomorrow to finish its whole schedule, its whole season. This is all because of Black Lightning, by the way. Black Lightning completely messed up at the Arrowverse season. I made a video about it early, like a couple months ago when it was announced that this was happening, but this is the last episode for a while. So it had to feel like a mid-season finale, right? Because last time, usually when these shows go on break, they have to end with an episode that makes you want to stay for more, like in episode 9 of every season has done for a while now, except for Supergirl. Supergirl hasn't actually done that until this season, but this season it did it twice, because this episode felt like it was a great episode by itself, but it definitely felt like a mid-season finale. It felt like that Purity had her own mid-season finale to set her up. Rain had her own one in episode 9, and this is Purity's one. Pestilence will definitely not get her own mid-season finale because the show's not going on break anymore. But this episode, even though the show's on break for 9 more weeks, this episode made me want to wait those 9 weeks. It felt like a good mid-season finale, and it's honestly more of a mid-season finale than the last one because, first of all, it's closer, or it's basically just as close to the actual mid-season, which is episode 11, because there's 22 episodes in this season, and it's even longer break this time. I'm pretty sure about that. So yeah, it definitely is like a double the break, so it did a pretty great job at being a mid-season finale, even though it technically isn't one. So in episode 11, we were introduced to Purity, but this is the episode that we're formally introduced to her in meeting her character. Purity was a pretty cool character. Her powers consisted of flight, super strength. She had all the Supergirl powers except for frost breath, and heat vision, and those were replaced by a sonic scream, similar to Black Siren and Black Canary, and even similar to Silver Banshee, who we saw in season 1 of Supergirl. I just thought her power set was really cool, and I liked it very much. I thought that the sonic scream was done pretty well. It wasn't done amazingly well, and it wasn't done as well as it was on Arrow this season, but it was still pretty cool, and hopefully we get to see more of that, because she does use it a lot, which might get a little old, because hearing that sonic scream could be a little bit annoying, but if they use it in moderation, it could definitely be really cool. But I thought that the actress who played Purity was actually really good. Like that one scene where she's talking to Alex and telling her that somebody made a hole in her, and she did it to herself. That was a really well acted scene by that actress, and that her acting was really good in this episode. Her character was really interesting. She's similar to Rain, but first of all, she has different powers. But second of all, her character is a little different, because Rain is, she is the person, I don't remember her name, fights for control way more than Rain does, which is something that I expected to happen to Rain, but it seems like they're using that plotline with Purity, and they're using the she's blacking out thing with Rain, which is pretty cool that they have their own things, which is expected when it's a person where a bad guy's taking over their body. It's expected for both those things to be plot lines, and it's a pretty interesting thing that they did with Purity, and maybe Pestilence will have her own thing, although I doubt Pestilence will be as big of a deal as Rain or Purity, because she won't be revealed until way later in the season, unless if she's revealed in the next episode, which is also very possible, but that is not for another more than 2 months. Like I said, Purity was talking to Alex and saying that somebody dug a hole in her. They're talking obviously about Maggie and her doing it to herself, meaning she broke up with Maggie. And the Alex drama in this episode, it wasn't misplaced at all. It was actually done really well. And there was one really well acted scene where she and Supergirl argue about whether to be optimistic or cynical. And I thought that was a very well acted scene by Kyler Lee. So these two actresses, I know their names, Purity and also her character, not really, but I thought that was a really well acted scene, and I liked it. This episode had a multitude of really, really well acted scenes from Purity, Alex, and even Mon-el. The scene where Mon-el had like a really great scene was in the side plot where they fixed the Legion ship, which actually surprisingly was not anywhere near the main focus of this side plot. That was what they said in the synopsis, but it turns out that yeah, they're doing this, but that's not the main focus of the side plot. It is mon-el and Imra's fake marriage. Maybe it's not fake. It was very much forced and arranged, and that's actually a good thing, because hopefully that this whole drama thing, which I actually think is done really well, all the drama in this episode is done surprisingly well, but hopefully this leads to their divorce. Not because I want to see mon-el and Supergirl together, but because Imra belongs with Lightning Lad, and I like comic book accurate couples. So Imra and mon-el isn't at all. But if this forced marriage thing and mon-el still having feelings for Kara thing leads to their divorce, I will be happy with that. But the really well acted scene from mon-el was when he was talking to John about this whole thing. And again, it was just really well acted by Chris Wood, who plays mon-el. I know all the actors' names except for Purity, but it was done really well, and it was a great acted scene. Like I said, this episode has a lot of really well acted scenes. So in my synopsis and trailer breakdown for this episode, I said that if they don't explain why Brainiac 5 isn't around to fix the ship, I will be annoyed. And they did drop like a small hint to that fact, saying that Brainiac 5 was off doing something else. I don't really remember what they said, but they said something similar to that, which kind of explains it, but it doesn't really make any sense. But at the same time, I expected it to bother me. It didn't. It didn't at all, because this side plot was pretty compelling. It was so much more interesting and compelling than I expected, which is the same. It's the same with the whole episode. This might be one of my favorite Supergirl episodes ever, which is a common theme with season 3, with the exception of the Morgan Edge episodes, because those are pretty bad. The thing about this episode is that all the subplots fit in within the main story very nicely. None of them feel forced. None of them feel out of place. They all feel really, really natural within the story. The fixing the Legion ship side plot, which is more of a mon-el Imra fake marriage ? Side plot, and also the Sam side plot, which is I didn't actually talk about, but that was pretty cool too. It was just all the subplots, all the two subplots, the two major ones, and there was one minor one with the Alex drama thing. I think it all fit in within the main story really nicely. It's something this episode did really well. And another thing this episode did pretty well was the fight scenes. For a Supergirl episode, that is, because Supergirl usually has pretty bad fight scenes. It's not really their forte. But this episode upped the ante a little bit. Not as well as episode 9 did, but I thought the fight scenes in this episode were pretty good. But again, for Supergirl, because you put these fight scenes on Arrow, and they're subpar at best. But again, it's not really Supergirl's thing. So this episode revealed to us that the Legion has a true mission, and that their mission of saving that planet where Lightning Lass and Lightning Lad are from isn't actually the real mission, and mon-el isn't actually aware of their real mission. Only Brainiac 5 and Saturn Girl are. This is really interesting to me. This is like the thing that makes me dread the break the most. It's probably the only thing that makes me dread the break for the next episode, because I want to find out what this mission is. So if they were going for that cliffhanger, a cliffhanger that makes you hate the dread the break, they nailed it on the money on that one, because that is the most interesting thing to come out of this episode. The fact that the Legion have a true mission that definitely involves Supergirl, because Imra said that she knew something like this would happen with mon-el being like having feelings for Supergirl again, meaning that her and Brainiac 5 planned to go back to 2017, now being 2018, and that was their true mission. That is so interesting to me, and it makes the break so much worse than it probably should have been. Like I would have been fine with waiting 9 weeks, but because of this, I have to wait 9 weeks to find out what their true mission is. That will honestly suck. So if they're going for that, they did it really well. In conclusion, this episode was really, really good. One of the best episodes of Supergirl ever. And while that's not really saying much, it is saying something for this season, because this season has been pretty great so far. Save for, like I said, episode 12 and all the similar episodes to that, because those episodes feel like they belong in a previous season. But everything else, all the storylines surrounding the Legion and Reign is really great. This episode focused more around Purity, which is one of the World Killers, so it's definitely surrounding Reign, but everything surrounding the World Killers and the Legion is great, and this episode surrounded those storylines a lot, which is why episodes like episode 12, which have nothing to do with Reign or the Legion, are really boring and the worst episodes of the season. But this episode did it really well, and another thing it did really well, like I said, is that it worked as a mid-season finale, even though it's not an actual mid-season finale, and all the subplots fit within the main storyline very nicely. So this episode was so good that I'll give it a 9.5 out of 10. But let me know what you thought about the episode in the comments down below and in the poll in the top right corner of the video. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.